Okay, so good morning and welcome to our political liaison meeting this morning of March 24th. First, I want to begin by identifying any media on the line. I don't see any representatives from any of the entities. Looking to then the adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? And if not, looking to a mover and seconder to adopt our agenda for today's session. Moved by Audrey, seconded by Greg. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Okay, we have no delegations scheduled for this morning's meeting, so that leads us right into the adoption of the political liaison minutes of March the 13th. Looking to any questions, comments on the minutes?
I'll move on in minutes, Chief.
Okay, thanks, Carrie. It's moved by Carrie. Is there a seconder?
I'll second, Sherry Lynn.
Seconded by Sherry Lynn. Any further questions or comments? Seeing or hearing none? All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. And I do apologize, Council. Sorry, I think I have not the most up-to-date agenda because I'm recognizing, seeing Brooke. Thank you, Brooke. We do have a delegation, Tanya Hill. Someone just, if I can reverse back under our delegation portion and welcome Tanya Hill. I do see her online. There's Tanya. Okay. My apologies, Tanya. Welcome to Political Liaison. I'll pass the floor over to yourself.
Okay, good morning. Yeah, I didn't have an updated agenda as well. So I just brought forward, so Sego Guego. You know, my apologies to council, chief and community because I haven't been doing regular updates. So I just thought I would bring forward some of the work that we concluded in the 2022 field season and moving on to 2023, we're starting to get boots on the ground and getting back out into the archaeological field. So this last year we had 28 representatives through archaeological sites and, you know, Southern Ontario. This year, this year we project to probably have around 33. So we have positive growth every year with the archaeological community monitoring program. Last year we had roughly 220 different sites going on at different times throughout the field season. In regards to that, we usually have about 28 a month that kind of filter through the month. Who's involved? Generally, I like to mention this. So we have generally HDI, Mississaugas of the New Credit. We have Curve Lake, Huron-Wendat. So their involvement also is, you know, partnered out onto the site. I will, I guess, get into some of the sites that we were on. So last year we finally concluded, and I brought this to council before, the Fisher-Hallman site where we had around, you know, I think we, in the beginning of season, we had around 80,000. As we ended that field season in 2022, there was roughly 120,000 artifacts that were recovered on Fisher-Hallman site. So we're now completed. The artifacts are now in lab going through analysis. Another Kitchener site we're on is Huron South. So Huron South is probably around 1.4 kilometers away. So it's in the vicinity of the Fisher Holman site. Do I believe there's connection with the two sites? Definitely. They're both the same time period. So we started that site in 2020 and it's still ongoing. So it went into 2022, 2021, and 2023. We're just got boots on the ground where the monitors are just starting to get back out to the field now. Hagersville. So we'll move on to Hagersville. So we have Smith Farms, and Smith Farms is just the outskirts of Hagersville, around by the Hagersville Hospital. So I don't know if anybody's drove down Hagersville Way heading north towards Nell's Corner. We're just, our site there's just a little bit on the outskirts out that way. We had, we did a stage 2 there, a pedestrian survey, and we flagged in a lot of potential sites. So again, this year, Smith Farms will move on into 2023. Nasserlands. So Nasserlands is in Hagersville, and it's also produced a lot of heritage there, and it's along the quarry. So we're working alongside the quarries there. If anybody's been in Hagersville last year and seen all the flags, and that project will also continue into 2023. Caledonia. So Caledonia, we've been on what the heck is it? Avalon site for probably, I'll say, since 2018. It actually predate me in my role. So we'll have boots back on the ground this year again in 2023 for Caledonia, for Avalon and McClung. So they're both sites that are connected with each other. We'll move over to Mississauga now. So Mississauga, we have
Tanya, sorry to interrupt you. Can I ask one question on Caledonia?
Yes.
Has under McClung, is there any environmental protection order for that area on species? Just a quick curiosity.
Yeah, we have had monitors. So some of our representatives are actually schooled with environmental. So we have had monitors on site to, be in the field work with some of the work being done, but we haven't had any conversation as of yet with, any type of protection. Right now, as of last year, those records, those assessments should be coming in. We're just letting us know what species are at risk, what is the water quality control. So all of those assessments should be arriving like any time now, and I can keep council up to date with those assessments produced.
Okay, now for that, Tanya.
So we'll move over to Mississauga. So we have a Hallen site, and Hallen was a significant archaeological site. It had lots of artifacts. It had unfortunately a little burial that came out of that site, and it was located along the Credit River. So we're really not surprised with some of the findings there, and that site will move on in 2023. Georgetown, Lindsay Court, I brought this one to council before, another significant archaeological site. We have a lot of village features there, and we will be continuing Lindsay Court into our stage 4 as well. Vaughan, same with Vaughan. It's another significant site that our program is on, and it's called the Scanahut Village site. And we are, again, 2023 going to be on that site again. Nanticoke, so last year we started some stage 2 work in Nanticoke, and we came across a lot of find spots. So we'll be moving on to stage 3 and possibly stage 4 in Nanticoke as well. Metrolinx, we spent a fair bit of time on Metrolinx. We've been there for over a year now. We did have some field season winter work, which we don't often take a lot of winter work on, but this past 2 years now we've been able to achieve winter work. And some of the Metrolink winter work entailed environmental. So we had monitors on site to participate in some of the archaeological work and environment, but like I said, winter work, really, we spent a lot of time with the environmental portion of it. So there was 3 sites. There was Osgood, Corkstown, which is First Parliament, and Moss Park. So the monitor spent majority of their time on those 3 sites this winter. Pipelines, the last few years and moving into this year, we spent a lot of time with some pipelines. So Imperial Oils, Trans Northern, Sun Canadian. We just, again, supported the protection and the respect of some of the integrity digs that they did on the pipeline sites. I guess we'll move over to Brantford now. So Brantford, we're in conversations with Burkett's Lane, and I'm sure that you guys may be aware that the Archaeological Monitoring Program is also, we work really closely with the Survivor Secretariat. I know I mentioned that in the past in some of my other archaeological updates. And so right now we're in conversations with the Burkett's Lane, like what's it going to look like for some of the sonar this year? Are we going to be in that area where the Burkett's Lane project is proposed? So that's some of the kind of the conversations that are sitting right now for Burkett's Lane. Garden Ave in Brantford. So we're going to be moving into a stage 2 there on Garden Ave. The same with Hardy Road. Those 2 sites were in stage 2 last year, and we're going to be continuing those stage 2s. Arrowdale, we were involved with the stage 2 and the stage 3 there. And the city of Brantford, who is the proponent, decided to do an avoidance and protection in the area. So basically what avoidance and protection looks for archaeological field work is that we will, come together and have a conversation of what will it look like to totally avoid the area. So I know the city brought forward, some ideas. They want to do maybe possibly a medicine garden there. They want to do, maybe just some treed areas or just some native grasses, just to have nobody in that area, but still have some sort of a protection mechanism there. Arrowdale will continue into adjacent sites. So that particular area is in conversation for avoidance and protection. But there is an area still in the Arrowdale Park that does need further work. So that's what leads me to, add this one onto my my list this update, because we are going to be working on some stage 2 and possibly stage 3 work on Arrowdale again. We still are the Archaeological Monitoring Program, very involved with a lot of commemoration sites. So again, we're working with New Dundee. They have a longhouse that was found in the 80s. And they still want to, continue these conversations into 2023 of what is this, going to look like for commemoration. So we're in the primary stages of that conversation. But again, our involvement is critical. And, just to have that Indigenous voice at that working group, I thought was really important. And I'm pretty excited to continue those conversations. Babby Point in Toronto, we've been working on a Heritage District protection plan. So Babby Point is a really significant site. It's a Seneca site, and it's completely developed right now. Like there's a lot of old school Valley Victorian type of houses there, but it is so significant for archaeological value and heritage that Toronto's working really closely with us and saying, you know what, we understand this area is really significant to Six Nations. How should we move forward with protection of the heritage on the Babby Point district? So that's a conversation that I've been sitting in for quite a while now. So we're starting to get closer to some solutions. Kitchener Museum. We're still working with Kitchener Museum. So as I brought this up in my last update, that we want to see those artifacts from Fisher Home and, used for knowledge and some sort of acknowledgement. So the Kitchener Museum's still working with us on that project of basically what is it going to look like? Are we still going to continue on with an interactive approach where, they're going to bring drones in there and they're going to reenact what a village looked like? So that conversation's still moving into 2023. The archaeological programs, collaborative projects. So we're still involved with the McMaster clay study, where we're going out and taking clay samples from different areas. And we're actually just trying to find, doing some analysis on figuring out, okay, was the clay that was made with the pottery, did it come from the actual area? Or did our ancestors travel to different areas to accumulate clay? So that clay study is very interesting. We're going to have some interesting results from that. So I'm looking forward to that. McMaster Food Sovereignty, we did have the November 30th invite for everyone to come out to the gathering place. It was a really successful night. We had a meal, we had some discussion, and that one also is ongoing. We're going to be proposing in the next month or two another in-community conversation at a facility for community members to come out and enjoy and to collaborate and with their ideas of how and if they have anything to offer the food sovereignty project or just want to know and have questions, right? Mohawk Institute, we're still involved with that project. We're still actively working with the Ontario Archaeological Association and the University of Waterloo. We're doing a GIS project into 2023, which began in 2022, where we will be mapping all the archaeological sites. And that way it gives us in-house a better understanding of what geographically our archaeological sites look like. And also helpful for me in my position. So if something comes up and an archaeological site's been impacted, we're able to get on our mapping and being able to see where where the sites are mapped and if there was anything significant in the areas. We also had a really exciting project offer from the University of Montreal, where we're going to be doing a $7 million grant that Six Nations will be involved with. And we're going to be documenting all the archaeological Iroquois history and putting it into a database. So that involves Smithsonian, it involves the museum in Rochester, McMaster, University of all across Ontario and the US. So it's a really large, massive project that I'm really looking forward to, giving council and community a lot more updates on. So I think that's pretty much everything for me. If anybody has any questions.
Okay, Nyawa, Tanya, for walking us through such detailed report. I see a few hands actually being raised. I'll start with Sherry Lynn, over to Audrey, and then Greg. Sherry Lynn, you have the floor.
Okay, yeah, I have a couple. First of all, can you explain what the stages are? Because you kept saying stage 2, 3, and 4. Can you explain that to the community?
I can. And I actually had that in my detailed report. And so thank you for that, Councillor Hill. So a stage 1 is a desktop search. So a consulting archaeology company, when when a development proposal comes out, they'll reach out to an archaeological company to conduct this stage 1. So a stage 1 is just a desktop search into the mapping of the Heritage Association, so the Ministry of Culture and Citizenship. And what that stage 1 does is it tells in a 1 kilometer radius whether there's archaeological potential in that area. So that is basically our trigger. Then a stage 2 is actually, we're getting out to the field. The stage 1 has produced areas of significance. So we get out and we actually start doing some testing. So that stage 2 will be either done by a pedestrian survey, which is, walking a farmer's field. So what happens is, and a lot of development is taking place, unfortunately, right now, and agricultural fields that is now being rezoned into housing. So our archaeological consulting company along with Indigenous monitors, will go out, walk that field in 5-meter intervals. So everybody will be standing alongside each other. The field will be plowed, it'll be weathered, and we will walk that field. So sometimes in that stage 2, we aren't able to conduct a stage 2 pedestrian survey because that stage 2 might result in an area where it's woodlot, or it could be highly developed areas. So there's another mechanism for a stage 2 to actually do some test pits. So you'll go in, dig a hole 30 centimeters round, and you can go down to 1.20 meters in depth. So that is the second mechanism that, for a stage 2. So with those 2 studies, if something, occurs where we find potential, it'll move on to a stage 3. In that stage 3, we'll start doing 1-by-1 units. And that unit just intensifies the areas to say, okay, well, we do have evidence that this stage 2 did produce the stage 3, and there is significant finds here. So we need to move on. So then once we move on, there's significance in a stage 3. We go into a stage 4, which is block excavation. So we will, a lot of times stage 4s can take up to a couple years. So we just, start digging, blocks. We start blocking it out. What is important for us in these stages is that the stage 1 and the stage 2 in Indigenous engagement bulletin with the ministry standards and guidelines, we are not actively involved in these stages. And as you can see with me explaining what the stage 1s and 2s mean, those are significant, important areas that Indigenous communities need to be sitting at. We need to be sitting at the table when they're discussing stage 1 or even planning of these projects, so we don't have any disgruntled archaeological companies and writing off stage 1s and stages 2, because again, that is where our potential is. If we're not involved there, then it's really problematic for, our heritage protection and respect. So I advocate in my role really strongly that we stay actively involved in planning and stage 1s and stage 2. So the ministry at this point is not supporting that yet, but archaeological companies, municipalities, regions, some developers, they're hearing what we're saying, and they're actually involving us without having that support from any type of written policy or legislation. So that right there is a lot of advocacy, and where my job becomes stressful sometimes because I have to really advocate hard. But again, times are changing, and people are starting to really realize and having that awareness that needs to be our involvement. So where we are involved is in stage 3. So again, you have to follow the process to get to the stage 3 again. And I advocate hard to make sure that we are in the planning stages. I hope that answers your question, Councillor Hill.
Yes, thank you. And I guess since we're at political right now, I think that still needs to be on the radar for the ministry, that we're still don't get notification till stage 3 compared to stage 1 and 2. And I'm glad that the archaeologists, they're working with you, the companies. So that's good. Just a couple more, Chief. Is there a map with all these sites on it?
There is not currently a map. Again, the ministry holds this. I have achieved in 2022 a data sharing agreement now with the Ministry of Culture and Citizenship. So that is a positive. So that's something that we are going to be moving into alongside of our GIS mapping. We're working with Waterloo. So that is actively moving in a positive direction.
So do we have one for Six Nations? Like for our own, to know that all these sites that you just said, there's one overall map with them all on there?
No, we do not. We're working on that through our GIS program.
Okay. And just one more, Chief. Where are all our artifacts being held, and what's the overall goal to store our, or to have our artifacts here on Six Nations? Thank you.
So currently our artifacts, our heritage, is basically housed, unfortunately, in sometimes the basement of consulting archaeology companies. I advocate in my role to have them put in a facility. So generally substantial archaeology in Hamilton. And that way that they're not, they're actually somewhere and documented into a housing facility. Because what is really problematic if something happens to these consulting archaeologists who actually have our artifacts in their home, what if they passed away, right? What if they decided to retire? So these are ongoing conversations I'm having as well to ensure that, some of this material comes home. We need to start teaching our people. We need to start teaching our children. So I'm working on, trying to figure out what that's going to look like with community and council involvement. So right now we're in the premature stages of figuring out, okay, ministry, how does this look? Okay, sustainable archaeology, how can you support us? So those are some of the conversations that I'm having now. So my ultimate goal is to see that our heritage come home. Like, it needs to come home, and we need to set up some sort of a housing facility at some point for these. But as you can see, communities, indigenous communities are the only ones who have some sort of, written note that they can't have the archaeology. You got to have a special facility to be able to house this. But really, when you see licensees, they have them in their basement. So Rich is really unfair.
Just a follow up, Chief.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sure.
Just a follow up. And I think that's so important that we need to really figure out a plan, because as we all know, the government's wanting to send artifacts back to us, but we have nowhere to put them. So I really think that we really need to put this on the forefront to give the respect that it needs. Thank you.
I totally agree. Thank you for that, Sherilyn, as well, Tanya, for, I think, well, part of the, I guess, the political advocacy, Tanya, obviously is not just what you're doing on your end, but what we got to do to further the conversations with government on that piece. Because you're right, that is very, that's quite an unfair criteria, when yet everyone else has to meet that, but Indigenous communities doesn't make any sense. Audrey, over to Greg, and then Hazel.
I agree, and I think that, Tanya, we should be looking at political advocacy now. We should be sitting down with the chief and council and having our plan. And I would hope that this is already on our long-term plan for infrastructure. And maybe we can bump it up a little higher in the priority list. But my other question is, the site you were talking about, the good windfall, we have to work with Montreal, University of Montreal. I need more clarification on that. Like, what is our role there? When they collect all this data and they collect all these artifacts, basically who owns the project? Are we in somehow able to access it? And how will it help Six Nations?
Okay, so that is an excellent question, Audrey. I'm really happy you asked that, because this grant that the University of Montreal has proposed, I'm working on trying to partner with them, because again, we need, as Indigenous, as Six Nations, to be involved with this and be with the working group. The data right now and the artifacts are actually, so the data is scattered everywhere. So this is a mass project, a $7 million project, and we're going to put all of this data together into one portal. So who will have access would be, obviously Six Nations should have it, because they are doing, putting this together with, Iroquois and all Six Nations history in it, right? So right now it's just in, like, again, premature stage. We just need to be there. We're going to have that access to that data. And before, we weren't involved with that, right? We didn't have any data sovereignty, and now we're looking towards achieving that. And this is, like I said, this is the first project that all the information is going to be into one portal.
And if you don't mind me saying, I think you need political advocacy for that as well.
Okay,
So if you go in there with our chief and our political people, I think it's counselors. I think you're gonna get a lot more knowing that the whole entire reserve supports us and we're working together on this. You know,
yes. You know, Audrey, and we did get support from Darren and Trevor for this project. I did send in a support letter for some of my work that I would be doing for this project.
Okay, now for that, thank you. Thanks for that question as well, Audrey. Over to you, Greg, and then Hazel. Oh, sorry, Greg, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I think my feed froze there for a second.
Okay. You have the floor, Greg.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree with the two previous counselors' remarks there. Yeah, I know the University of de Montreal, it has a fairly large archaeological department, and I knew they do get quite a bit of funding. So I think that's a good idea if maybe we had a representative there that could be involved with that, if that's possible, and we could advocate that. I'm sure they'd accept it too as well. The other question is that the municipalities seem to be working better than the ministry in terms of working with our department. Tanya, is that not correct? Would that be a correct assessment that the municipalities are more forthright with working with you as compared to the ministry?
Yes, that is very correct. So we
So
have a
that-
really good, positive relationship.
Oh, so that can we use that in terms of pushing the ministry to say, hey, I don't know if there's protocols set up, but we could actually set up an initial protocol for that actually engages us earlier, is what I'm trying to get at. And
So go ahead. Sorry, I might have cut you off. You might have had more substance to the
no,
question.
go ahead.
Okay, so
No,
yeah,
I'm finished.
this is an awesome question as well. So with municipalities, they're working on archaeological management plans. Some have already had archaeological management plans. So when Bill 23 got passed, they basically had, pushed on lower tiers and municipalities to engage with Indigenous communities in a more stronger, productive, supportive way. So with that being said, we all, even consulting archaeologists, have been writing letters to, and because with Bill 23, they want guidance as well, municipalities, and they don't have that guidance, right? So it's almost like not only the communities, but the ministries, they have deaf ears to them as well.
Great. Well, I commend you on actually reaching out to municipalities. Sometimes the ministry, if they're not cooperative, then we just go to the source. Yeah. And I think that's a good thing. But I think on our end, we got to push that. We got to push the ministry to be more cooperative.
Yes. And we are doing a bit of the work through the Chiefs of Ontario. So there is some positive there, but it's not positively coming back from the ministry yet. I will say with that relationship with municipalities, they are, so Haldimand, Brant County, City of Brantford, and Welland, I now sit on pre-con meetings. So within these pre-con meetings, it's almost like we're doing our own, doing better on our own without support from the ministry. So with these pre-con meetings I'm sitting in now, this is in the development stages, the planning. So if anybody even decides to do, a foundation or a fence or, right up to a hospital, we're sitting in there now advocating why we should be there, what the significance and importance of protecting our heritage and respecting our heritage from an archaeological perspective. We're advocating right in the pre-cons now. So they're doing a lot better, right? And now we're going to be missing a lot less work. It's a lot more work for me, but it's positive. And so that's, really good. But again, you're right. Ministry still needs to, step it up.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, now for that, Greg and Tanya, Hazel's in queue next. Hazel, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment with regard to all the archaeological items that are, don't really have a home. With the infrastructure committee that's now looking into funding that will flow to Six Nations from land claims, etc. I think that they need to have, and maybe they already do, I just don't know, the idea of a big museum for Six Nations that will house all the artifacts. I don't know where all they're located, but bring them all home. And since tourism is now being transferred back, or it's already transferred back onto the council, you could work in conjunction with them where that museum would be a tourist attraction to house all of those products. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Hazel. And I'll maybe just really quickly shift over to Darren on that piece, because I know there's also work happening, obviously, at the Woodland Cultural Center in terms of, you know, their future plans as well. So I know there's much collaboration that can definitely take place. But just really quickly before I go back to Sherry Lynn, I'm wondering if Darren, if you'd like to add any comments on that piece.
Yeah, sure, Chief. We're looking at, we have a design for a facility that was done, I believe, a few years back. It needs to be updated, but certainly we're working with Tanya and the team to look at what is the actual scale for, or some estimates on how it can be expanded upon. Would be a records building combined with a library plus an archival. So, you know, the whole notion of a museum element could be added, or interpretive portion as people come into the facility. There would be some, obviously, sections there of that building that would be restricted for access, and some climate controlled areas as well. So we do have a design, and just need to revisit that. It is on our infrastructure plan. We do have it in there for within the next 3 years. So we can look at that again in terms of a political advocacy plan around getting the capital, getting the funding required to get it up and running as soon as possible. And just another point on that, we've done some assessments on our existing buildings, i.e. the records and the library, and they're in pretty poor condition. So that creates data as leverage to, you know, to assist on the political advocacy side if it's required to advance additional dollars for facilities. So the first step will be obviously to update that design, make sure that we have it to the sufficient scale that we need. So I know Trevor's on the call, so we'll work with you too, Tanya, on that. Just make sure we've got that design recirculated, make sure it's big enough and meets the needs.
Thank you for that, Darren. And just really quickly back to the comments before, again, sorry, Sherilyn, in relation to Greg, your comments. That's really the purpose, and what we, as you know, we attended AMO this past year, the municipalities of Ontario. Tanya, to your point, and I think that's where, you know, I think at one time one meeting there was about 12 or 13, and Christopher, correct me if I'm wrong, about 12 or 13 different municipalities within that realm. Like, and again, it's about opening, you know, not much in a sense of the level that you're working with their technicians on, but as well as the political level of, you know, from mayor to myself and so forth. So I think that's even continued political pressure as well, to go, you know, just by attending those types of conferences and gatherings and so forth. There's not many First Nations that attend that, and that was my biggest question, is why? Because there's so much, thanks Christopher, 16, there's so much business, and there's so many territories surrounding the municipalities in this province. And so, you know, that's another, I think, another point of political pressure, really. Sherry Lynn?
Yeah, just a couple more. Tanya, can you just tell us the timeframes of the artifacts that are being found?
The artifacts are like probably about up to 11,000 years old.
Oh, no.
So yeah, and that's a concern for me, and I'm thank you for that, Darren, because, you know, some of the items that these museums and these archaeology companies and an essay, those are our sacred materials. Like, you know, like, how do we know that some of these items we don't need for ceremony, and they're housing them, and so it you know, on many levels it's very concerning, and I thank you for the support today. And with AMO, just to bring that up, we are doing a Chiefs of Ontario letter to AMO to ensure that they're starting to hear, you know, some of our concerns on that level. So thank you for that as well, Chief Mark.
Perfect. Good to hear.
Melba?
Just another one, Chief, and I'm glad to hear that too, because the chief and myself, we've been there and they like talking about us, about
Yeah.
First Nations, and they're not there. So I'm glad to hear that. I guess my last question is, I see still that the apartment building is right across the road or diagonal. I see that I hear that another apartment building's going up or something there, but I just wanted that for the residential school, meaning that that was probably part of the 400 or the 500 acres. So I see they're all digging around there. So just FYI. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that, Sherilyn. I also heard Melba, and sorry, just really quickly before I go to Melba on Sherilyn's last point. So, but you are you work obviously well with Laura in the Secretariat, so
Yes.
I'm sure that that could obviously be a point of flag on that.
Yes, we meet every Wednesday, so I'm very actively involved with them because there is a lot of proposed development in the Burkett's Lane, City Eagle Place, all in those areas. So yes, every Wednesday I meet with them.
That's good to know, and I thanks for that, Tanya. Over to you, Melba.
Yes, a lot of good questions and concerns, and I certainly have the concern too, where this can be stored. But presently, as people know, and part in the past, we've had some digs, a couple of them on Six Nations archaeology digs, and I wonder where those artifacts are. Also, I guess our history from when, for example, when the wampum belts were brought back from New York and other places, and there was viewing at I think it was at Onondagas, and like Chief Thomas that time, Jake Thomas, they weren't able to identify all those belts. So it's the same, possibly the same thing here. So I would question, I guess, our history, which has been mentioned, and the artifacts and how we're going to analyze those artifacts. We need a researcher to do those things so we can actually, I guess, have more of our history for our people before we all pass away. We need to pass it down to our people who are young and for those to come. So if the researchers can be in other places, in museums, why can't we have the funding to start analyzing those artifacts that we already have and that are wherever? I don't know where they are, whether they're up at the cultural center and what do they do with them. There's, I think we need to get some answers there. There's a lot of dolls, for example. I know my sister, Virginia Beaver, had dolls that she made, and I'm not sure where they are. So if we could follow through with political advocacy in several areas to move this forward. And I know the museum is going to be very, very valuable, but is that in a couple years? What can we start now that you need, Tanya? Now. Thank you.
So to answer a couple, so there is no policy on Six Nations. So if somebody does an archaeological dig on, you know, or comes to me, reaches out to our office, I always say it's the best practice that we do an archaeological assessment and have that mapped, right? In terms of where the artifacts are, generally in community, it's whoever had found them pretty much has them, right? With our archaeological monitoring program, that is the importance of it. We're out on site providing an Indigenous knowledge perspective to the archaeology when artifacts are coming out from the mitigated grounds. In museums, that's some of the conversation that I when in these meetings, I say, you know, we need an Indigenous knowledge person here to be able to provide the Indigenous knowledge perspective and component to what you're analyzing, what you're researching, what your findings are. So that is why our program is really important for that voice to be there. I was in a meeting on last Wednesday night. I did a presentation in the town of Wilmot. And before I went up, there was an archaeologist, Gary Warwick, who gave presentation. And after he gave the presentation, I had mentioned that even the names of some of the artifacts, like our ancestors didn't name this a Daniel's Point, or you know, these different names that consulting archaeologists and research have attached to the findings, right? And I feel like a lot of that needs to be, you know, sort of revised and sat at another working group and have conversation with researcher John, because you're right, Melba, that Indigenous knowledge component is not there, and it should be there, because, you know, basically it's kind of falsified analysis, right? So I'm working on addressing some of the needs in some of these areas. So I'm glad that was a really good comment that you brought to us today, Melba. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, now for that, Tanya, and I think that, you know, the other piece to this, and I still have to say this to yourself, because it's your work is commendable. Like, this is a really sacred work to you and your team, and just want to say Nyawa for all of that you do, because it's tough, and it's tough with the capacity that we're currently in. We don't have the capacity across the board. We know we got to get a building. We know it's got to be, you know, temp controlled. We know it's got to be unique to what the artifacts need to sustain and so forth. We know that we need collaboration, but we also know that, you know, this is really sacred to all of us as Haudenosaunee Ongohoe people and what that looks like. And so, you know, one of my pieces is that I hope it doesn't get misconstrued in the political infighting, in a sense, because I think our ancestors deserve more than that. And I think it's time that, you know, if we can come to, and we've always talked about this, you know, we have to continue to look at our confederacy and what our relationship is. And I think there's commonality, especially when we talk about this topic, where we can be able to come together and figure this all out, because it's going to be further on the education moving forward of not just our young ones, and raising and making sure they understand and realize, but also the, you know, the remaining of people in this country who need to be further educated on the lands and that they live on and so forth. So I just really want to, I guess, wrap up to say, yes, continue our work. And I know, Tanya, we have some political pieces to catch up on, but also to, you know, what you're already doing with Darren and Trevor and his team, so that we can continue to push this building and what that looks like. I know there's a lot of collaboration that needs to take place. And I think this is just the beginning. And to Sherry Lynn's point, it's rightfully so. You know, I think our ancestors deserve much more better than they currently state. But I do want to say now again, Tanya, for all of your work, because I know it's a lot, and we do appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that comment.
Okay, now, is there any further questions or comments for Tanya? That was a lot. I know, Tanya, I believe we have your detailed report. If we don't,
Yes.
we'll get sent out to full council, so that it's on paper for council anytime you need to reference. But at this point in time, if there are no further questions or comments for Tanya, I will look to the resolution of accepting the presentation as information at this point. Moved by Audrey, seconder.
I'll second.
Second,
Sherman.
Greg.
Second it, Melba.
Oh, sorry, I got Greg on the seconder. Any further questions or comments? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Now, again, Tanya, for coming to council and providing us with the latest update.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You as well. Okay, council, we've already done the minutes. And again, just for the record, it's the correction date of March 27th of the minutes. Leading into under the rights and research section, there's recommendation from our CAT team, which always provides a monthly report. So you'll see, I believe this might have been emailed out. I've seen some emails going back and forth. I don't necessarily think it was within your Dropbox. Brooke, can you confirm if that's been done?
Yes, the report is now in the Dropbox.
Okay, thank you for that. So council, it is within your Dropbox. It's the CAP process team activity report. So looking to any further questions or comments on the CAP report. I want to just maybe pause and look to the team. If there's any thing that should be raised, a flag out of the monthly report since our last. Looking to Taylor, Peter.
Yeah, the only thing we'd like to mention, which wasn't included in the report, is that Grand River bus tour late last month. So we started out from the Juarez, went right down to the lake, pointing out important sites for litigation, Six Nations history in the area, also a lot of the joint ventures, right, like the solar farms. We headed from there. We went to Mohawk Chapel for a nice lunch, and it's just we figured it's kind of a building that everyone knows about, but not everyone's actually been inside, and heard the history of that. We went up to Elora Gorge. We went to a Bellwood conservation area. After spending a night, we went to Luther Marsh, and then right up there in Dundalk to the source. And a number of the community members were sometimes a bit astonished to see how narrow the river was at that point. And a number were mentioning the lack of signage, concern because the source is right in the farmer's field, so is the pesticides and the like. So we're we with the CAP team, we're thinking, is there something we can do, as far as both that environmental and signage piece up by the source. But as a whole, lots of really positive feedback. We had archaeologists there, environmentalists, of course, Phil and others, with the history and the litigation. Really positive feedback, and it was a good experience for the CAP team as well. It's something we might consider doing, sometime down the road if funding merits. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that addition. Peter, looking to any further questions or comments from council on the activity report?
It's Melba. I
Sure.
wanted to comment on the Grand River bus tour. There has been several people that have been very disappointed that they have had other activities that they had to attend to, like doctor's appointments, which they had for a period of time. So they wondered if it's going to be done on a next year also, because they'd like to take advantage of it.
That's a really good question, actually. Maybe Peter, to your point of dollars, because I know that's probably the next question, is in terms of how we can actually do it more often, because I know I've heard that same comment as well, and I think just leading up to the our litigation and so forth, it just makes more sense as well. So maybe that is an opportunity where we can collaborate further to see at least how doing that maybe 3 times a year.
Yeah, thank you both for that. And as you suggest, Mark, yeah, it is a matter of funding, because it was just a particular grant that's a non-renewable grant that we're able to use that. That'd be wonderful if we could work with council, figure out what kind of funding baskets might be there. Might even be able to have a tour in warmer weather. It was that kind of end of the year fiscal, so it had to be in March, and I don't think people would mind if they were doing it in May instead or something like that.
Totally agree. So maybe Peter, to Melba's point, we can further connect to see what we can come up with, because I think it's important, again, as we as we're moving forward even further within our litigation. Sherry Lynn.
I just wanted to know, I wasn't able to, because it was just in our Dropbox now, but how is the relationship with Brantford and Brant County? Are we more involved in the development? What's happening up there? Those kinds of things. Thank you.
All right. I'm not sure who in our, sorry.
I would just say our meeting with Brant County unfortunately got rescheduled to June, but at that meeting, we're hoping to set up more regular meetings with them. And I do believe we have quarterly meetings set up with Brantford right now. Yeah, I think, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes, yes.
for the rest of the year.
City of Engineering, yes.
With this, with their city engineering, so at those meetings, they normally bring the list of their projects that are currently upcoming, and then even the ones that are just an idea for like 2025 and that, and those are set up for the year as quarterly.
Okay, good. Glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yes, likewise. Thanks for that, Sherry Lynn. Over to you, Greg. Oh, sorry, Greg, you have the floor.
Okay, yeah, just if we could get an update, Chief, on 431 West Street, and I know there was some political advocacy involved in that with Brantford. I was just wanted to see if we could get an update on where that's at.
Sure. I'll look to if there's any further points, because I know this is something that we're looking in terms of developing as well. Peter, Taylor, if you have any further to add on 431.
I don't have anything to add on 431 myself.
Lonnie, did you want to speak to that one?
Yeah, I think maybe Lonnie might be the best, actually. There you go.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Yes, we had been talking in the past a little while now, for 3 or 4 years, with City of Brantford, the CEO and other higher up people in the administration about how are we going to resolve 431 West Street. As you know, there's still taxes are still being accumulated on that, although Brantford has held off trying to do anything about it because of the other thing we have against Brantford is the fact that their water and sewer lines on Mohawk Street are on our land in Brantford. So, and they've been there for a number of years, and we haven't enjoyed any benefits from that. So there's a lot of issues. They seem to stop talking to us, to the CAP team, because I don't know why that is, because maybe they thought we were too demanding or whatever. But hopefully we can get something back on track. I don't know whether it might be through your office, Chief, and Christopher and Trevor, that we can get these things back on schedule. So, but it's just Brantford has agreed that they're not going to be going after the taxes. We still have that court case is still there, sitting there in abeyance against Brantford for the time in 2014 when we had to pay all those back taxes. And so it needs to be resolved one way or the other. And Brantford was in the early stages was most encouraging about let's resolve this by talking. So we had been doing it until fairly recently. I don't think we had a meeting with them since sometime last year. So, but I understand that there have been other meetings where these discussions could occur. So hopefully it's from the political end that something can start there. I don't think the people that we were meeting with didn't like what we were proposing. So because we still have a lot of outstanding issues with the 1997 agreement we have with Brantford for when the trunk sewer line went across the river in the northwest section of Brantford, that the interpretation of that agreement is still very much an issue, and it's open for discussion from our point of view. So yeah, we'd like to get that thing going, whether it's a CAP team or through your chief's offices. We'd like to see some resolution of that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Lonnie. Because I know I've talked to the mayor last on. I think the last discussion we had was in relation to the tree issue for their new Costco build. So it's kind of and there was no issue at that point. So I think there's some disconnect between the political to the technician side, which seems to be the issue. And so yeah, well, we can definitely look further to that. And I do like Nathan's suggestion in terms of an open letter that we can maybe perhaps further in addition to the political advocacy piece. So just to add some further pressure. So we can work on that as well. So
Melba?
Trevor and Christopher, I'll definitely take note on that piece, and we can definitely assist with this for sure. Because like that was my last conversation with the mayor, and he didn't see that there was an issue even with it. So I don't know who's not telling him on his side, but obviously there is clearly issues. I just really quickly, I seen Phil had his hand raised. I just want to go to Phil really fast.
Yeah, I think Malani pretty well summarized it. I think we need some coordination here because we've done a lot of work and we got the city of Brantford, you know, basically against the wall, and let's address this issue. So it's political input or a union of both the politics and the work of the CAP team. I think now's the time to push it, because with that, even with the court case on West Street, the clock is ticking. We got to be very careful of those things. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Okay, makes total sense. Thanks for that, Phil. Over to you, Melba.
Yes, I wonder if the tri-council that we've talked about several times would be helpful where we get together. We only have a few months to do that, and I think the CAT team certainly could bring them up to date on some of our agreements and some of our history and relationships with Brant and Brant County. So I would hope that we could get that off the ground and discuss some of these things, and maybe something can happen. If not, then it's in the next council. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good point. And in fact, actually, we were all prepared to go. However, it was the city of Brantford that was hosting, if you recall, at the time, with the county of Brant and ourselves. However, they were gearing up for their elections. So I think that's what kind of put it on hold per se, but we can definitely see where that is. I know both mayors, Mayor Bailey as well as Mayor Davis have been in agreement to a tri-council for some time. So I think that can definitely assist us. Any further questions or comments for the CAP activity report? Okay, seeing or hearing none, then I'll look back to the recommendation 6.1 that therefore be resolved. The council accept the March 2023 to April 2023 consultation accommodation process team activity report as information. Is there a mover and seconder to that effect?
I'll move it, Sherlyn.
Moved by Sherry Lynn, seconded by Greg. Oh, thanks, Michelle. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Further recommendations from Lands and Resources, recommendation 7.1. I believe over to you, Taylor.
Yes, so this is about the community engagement standards. It's the committee that was formed to help do community engagement to help form the community engagement standards. But I believe Tabitha Curley's on. She is the consultant that was hired for it. So she's actually going to be giving an overview on what's happened so far and what's going to happen.
Okay, perfect. And just really quickly, because I know we've had some confusion on this piece. It's not it's not our community standards per se. This is what we're going to engage tools to help us engage community on for further projects and initiatives.
Yes, correct.
Yes. Sorry, Helen.
Yeah, my question when I was reading this was, I don't recall council ever approving these community standards. We were supposed to sit down and go through them all, but we've never done that. I don't think we approved them. So how could they take them out to the community if we haven't approved them?
Sorry, which ones are you referring to again, Helen? I want to make sure we're clear on this because that's why Tabitha's
the community standards document, I'm assuming.
No. That's why I want to clarify.
We got two?
So there's not two. Maybe this is something where we kind of Tabitha, maybe we come up with a better name, because this is engaging standards of how we engage our community on specific projects and initiatives. So this has been ongoing. We approved that last year, and Tabitha has been hired as her consulting to help kind of bring us together and go out and say, what are the tools? So this has nothing to do with the standards.
I thought it was the community. When I read it, I thought it was the community standard.
Yeah, and to be honest, it is a little confusing because we have the both. So maybe we come up with a name moving forward, but no, this has nothing to do with the community standards itself. And no, we haven't approved any of them. So I just want, maybe that was a good clarification, a good segue over to your presentation. Tabitha, good morning and welcome.
Good morning and welcome. Thanks for having me, Council. So again, my name is Tabitha Curley and I am the owner of Fluid Consulting, and I've been retained to go out to the community to crowdsource information on how we best engage the Six Nations community on projects that require community engagement, and create a set of standards, minimum set of standards that staff, different organizations can use. Different departments do community engagement consistently on Six Nations, and there has never been a set prescribed set of standards that it goes out to the community for this long, it's advertised in at least these many places, we reach this many people. Because of that often leaves staff or individuals working in community engagement at odds, and they're not really sure how best to engage, nor do they have the tools, and none of this knowledge has been fully centralized. So my job is to go out and to engage different organizations, different individuals, and kind of come up with this set of standards where we know that the project X meets these certain levels of criteria, that they have a predictable method in which that they're going to reach out to the community, a good understanding of how much that might cost, how much resources it might take, where this information would be posted. So what we have done is in January is we formed a committee. So we have a working group called the Community Engagement Standards Working Group. This project sits underneath Trevor Bomberry's Department of Nation Building. And what we did is we formed a group of 8 members to kind of oversee our work and to provide us with feedback. So we did a lot of background research. So we did a gap analysis of the last 10 years of engagements on Six Nations, where we looked at all of the information that's posted on SN Futures, and we kind of summarized all the engagement done thus far, how many people were involved, kind of the methods and approaches that they've done. We also went to our CES working group, which is comprised of, I'm just going to give you the list of names. So Taylor Hill is our chair of the CAP team. We also have Sarah Curley-Smith, the acting director of health, Sherry Lynn Hill, Carl Hill, Zach Miller is the director of planning. We have a youth member, Serena Meznabals. Rachel Martin is our DevCorp rep, and then we did reserve a place for an HDI or HCC rep. We have reached out to them a few times to see if they would like to fill that committee space. We have not heard back, so we have just earmarked that for a cultural or an environmental rep. What we do is when we take our data, so the first 3 months, we've been going and digging through this data, asking this committee what other information's out there. Another set of engagements that we looked at for our gap analysis was a great deal of engagements that health has done, and kind of looked at the best practices that are there. Ultimately, what we're going to do is create a standards guide that kind of outlines the options that are available on Six Nations. So anybody who's doing community engagement could pick up this guide, have a very predictable understanding of the steps that it takes, the requirements that they have, as well as a number of tools. So standardized questions, standardized forms, in which that, community engagement can be consistent. And then at the end of it, we will be recommending to council to pilot this for a certain amount of time to see how this project works within the community. So the overall goal to have this completed would be at the end of August, and that's prior to a call for an election. The reason we're doing this is because although community engagement has been done a lot on Six Nations, that learning has never really been centralized. And a lot of times departments are spending time doing community engagement, not really sure if their project is going to be approved or if their project is going to be considered and what levels or metrics that they're going to reach. So we're doing a number of background investigations, looking at other areas that are around us, different First Nations, different municipalities that are surrounding us, and as well as going and asking our community. We are doing this in a multi-layered approach, so meaning that one step of the engagement informs the next. So where we are right now is we did a lot of the background research, and then we started by doing individual interviews with 20, we invited 20 experts who do a lot of community engagement on Six Nations right now to complete a 20 question questionnaire. The information from those questionnaires are actually posted on SN Futures under active engagement. So the summary of the individual interviews are ready, as well as the gap analysis. I believe those links are included in your briefing note as well. From there, we're going to have focus groups, and we're starting to go out and do public engagement now. Public engagement will last a total of 3 months, and right now we're going into the focus group sessions. We did have our first focus group last Friday. We had 9 members sign up, but we only had 4 attend at this point. We do have another focus group happening, 2 of them on Wednesday. One is from 11 to 1 at the community hall, and another is from 6 to 8 p.m. at OMSK. I will post some links for the public on the Facebook page when I leave, because we do encourage community members to attend. So the questions that are asked at the focus group review some of the key responses that we received out of the individual interviews. And again, the responses we receive at the focus group sessions will then help inform our community survey questions. Once we receive the community survey questions, all of this together kind of accumulate and create our first draft of our community engagement standards guide first draft. Once that first draft is available, which is the beginning of July, the community will have 4 weeks to read that document, to comment on that document, to make any kind of suggestions back into that document, and then we will edit it and we will release another draft of that version. That's the revised version of the community engagement standards. Again, we'll put that back out to the public, and they'll have 3 weeks to read that document and make any kind of comments that go along with that at that time. So the community will get to touch this document a few times before it comes back to council with the feedback that we receive from the community and recommendations on how to proceed with it. One of the questions that will be asked during the community survey is, how long should this be piloted for? So will it be for a period of 1 year? Will it be 5 or 6 projects? And really what it's meant to do is to have that predictability and that criteria. I personally have done community engagement in this community for a substantial amount of time, dating back to the first community plan. And it can be a very difficult thing to do, especially when there's no prescribed path for you to move forward in. So this document is really meant to provide the steps for individuals to conduct community engagement and in a very clear, consistent, predictable way, as well as come up with a place in order to store this information so our learnings can be centralized and we can start building capacity and start building best practices that can, we can use further into the future. Is there any? So the engagement is going out currently right now. There are 3 ways the community can participate. So they can attend a focus group, which are posted. And like I said, I'll jump back onto the public Facebook page and drop some links for anyone who's listening and wants to participate. They can also participate by completing the survey. We are going to be using surveyors. So we're going to have people going out into the community at some of the community awareness week events and having them go up to people, letting them know what the project's about, asking them to fill out the survey on the spot. Anyone who does fill out the survey at one of those community engagement events will receive a $10 gift certificate for their participation. Or another option we provided based on our feedback from our working group is individuals can actually choose to donate their $10 to the schools. So we will just we'll divide that evenly amongst the 7 schools on Six Nations. Also, everyone who participates will be entered into a draw to win a grand prize of $500. And then the final way they can participate is to read the final document and then participate in that commentary period. Just look through my PowerPoint here. I think that's about it. One of the main things that we're working from that frames our engagement, and if you do look and see our gap analysis, is something called the IAP2 spectrum of public participation. It breaks community engagement into 5 main categories of inform, consult, involve, collaborate, and empower. And each of those have a promise to the audience as prescribed steps in which you need to adhere to. So we are looking to adapt that widely internationally accepted method of public participation to be specific to 6 nations. And we're looking to finalize that criteria. So an individual, a project proponent, a department who's conducting community engagement would be able to go and look at the criteria, like what is the impact of the decision? Is it short term? Is it long term? What's the sensitivity of the issue? Is it something that's very contentious in our community, or something that, you know, is a little less contentious? Where is it located? What's its level of disruption to Mother Earth? Is there a what's the reach in that decision? Is it limited to what we're engaging about now, or will it have effects on future generations? So we're really looking to use that chart to frame the overall engagement, to create that consistent, predictable idea of how to go out and engage the community in a justified way. That's kind of the high-level overview. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Nyawa, for that, Tabitha. And I think and do agree with Nathan's comment in the chat. It's a very comprehensive approach. I think it definitely needs to be, and this is something that I know we've been talking about for so long, to try to come up with developing this tool or this guide, because you know, the deliverables of your team and committee and so forth, obviously, is to help us so that we can start to gauge out, you know, where do we go, what do we get involved in. And so the other part is to engage the silent majority and how best to do that. And that's something I think that this project or initiative is going to definitely help assist in the decision making that this council or future councils have, because again, it's about our community and them getting involved in the work and decisions that again impact all of us. So I think it's work that's long overdue, and again, do appreciate from your committee and your team of that work, and wanting to look at this point to any further questions or comments for Tabitha. There is a resolution. Again, this is for information at this time, as noted from Tabitha, that we will have second eyes on this once the work is completed on the focus groups and the further engagement with community. Then it'll be brought back to council for further approvals. Nathan, over to Helen, and then Sherry Lynn. Nathan, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to just kind of reinforce the approach. I think it is very comprehensive, and that kind of full kind of scope of looking at it. The really trick is, and the only thing I'll kind of comment for our future decision making is, you know, whatever kind of model comes out of this, whatever guidance comes out of this, either this council or the next council really has to invest the proper dollars behind all of this. You know, one of the things I've consistently seen, not only here but in other areas, is we don't invest properly in communications, and we don't invest properly in engaging the community. I think it's always considered an afterthought. And that's not our fault. You know, government doesn't give us money to communicate or do the engagements, right? So we really have to look at doing it ourselves. So that's the only thing I really wanted to emphasize in this work. It is comprehensive, and I would hate to see a lot of these pieces go by the wayside by either this council or a future council not properly investing in this piece. And Chief, I'll move the resolution for discussion.
Okay, thank you for that, Nathan, your comments. So it's moved by Nathan. Is there a seconder just before I go to further questions or comments? Seconded by Audrey. Further question, comment? Helen, over to Sherry Lynn.
No, I just wanted to say it sounds really good. It sounds like a really good plan and there's a lot of work going into it. And I'm so glad we're doing this because this has been such an issue for so many years. So many councils over the decades. Communication has always been an issue with us. I'm really glad to see that we're moving forward on this, and I really hope that it comes to some kind of resolve where we can start reaching out to our community. We're always hearing how people says we don't tell them nothing. People says we're making decisions without them, and people says this, and this. So if we can get this going really good, then that gives people an opportunity to have their say where a lot of people don't like coming to meetings. Like Mark said, the silent majority don't want to come to meetings because there's always so much negativity attached to meetings. So I'm really glad. I hope everything goes really well, and I'm offering to help in any way that I can.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Neil and Helen, for that. Over to you, Sherry Lynn.
I just to make sure that this gets out on like our Facebook page, even in our newsletter, anything that council can do to help get this out there for the community. And I know that in the paper it's going to be and stuff, but I just wanted to make sure that it's on our social media and stuff, just so we get people involved. Thank you.
I have a comment. Melba?
Sure. Over to you, Mel.
Yes, just to ask Tabitha, when you have your focus groups, is there any specific areas that you have will reach out to youth, such as university students, such as elementary students? Certainly have a lot of idea, and a lot of times we don't reach out to them, and they're very valuable and have thoughts and feelings and a lot of good ideas. Thanks.
Thanks for that comment, Melba. We did do an email campaign to a number of different organizations on Six Nations. I did not target Polytech specifically, so actually, you know what I'll do is I'll follow up with an email out to them and see if they'll be able to share with their students. Thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you.
Okay, Neil, for that, Melba. Are there any further questions or comments? Okay, I'm not seeing or hearing none. It's been moved and seconded. I'll go to the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Looking forward to the final look at this, Tabitha, and I do wish you and your team, Taylor, all the committee well in this. And again, to Helen's point as well, if there's anything that we could do further to help assist, please don't hesitate to reach out. I know there's so much going on, but this is just as important as we move forward.
Thank you.
So now so much. Have a great day. Okay, Council, we're going to continue moving along here on our agenda. The next is under the section of built environment. I'll look to recommendation from Public Works. You'll see this is in relation to the water main extension. So I'll pass the floor over to Mike. I believe Michael Montour is on the line. If you can maybe just give us a high-level overview to this, and we will look to discussion and further approval. Yeah, Mike.
Chief, Sago everyone, Sago community. My name is Michael Montour. I grew up in this community down on 4th Line. I am your Director of Public Works here. And just to give you a broad overview of what we're doing. So we had applied last year for funding from the Six Nations Economic Development Trust Fund. We applied for $1.6 million to extend the water main on Cougar Road between 3rd and 4th Line. Just to give you some context as to how this was decided. So we had a design done, and that design looked at the gaps in our water line north of 3rd Line, between 3rd and 6th, and Mohawk and Cougar. So they put these through a different criteria to rank them and from a technical standpoint. So they took number of connections was a factor, water quality. So does this section complete a loop? Do our guys got to go down and flush it regularly? Servicing an area without overburden. So for the groundwater and the length of water main and the cost. So the first two priorities have been completed. So that's Tuscarora and Onondaga Road, both between 4th and 5th line. And now we are on this is our third priority, Cougar Road between 4th. So as per our requirements, anything over the amount of $300,000 for a contract needs to come to council for approval. Within this, there is a bit of a shortfall in funds. So I think the total cost is roughly 1.9 million. We have 1.6. However, we do have contingencies built within our O&M budgets to kind of offset this. And also we do look to different funding throughout the year to really offset this cost. So I've been here for 11 years now, and we've become very adept at finding these pots of money and figuring these things out. So this is to award the contract to Avertex Utilities. We do have some local companies that were aware of this opportunity to bid, but we didn't receive a bid. So we're just looking to award and proceed, and you'll see the construction in the summertime, and we will come out with a communications plan as far as, what disruption you will see and what the timing will be. Thank you.
Okay, now for that high-level overview, Michael, looking to further questions or comments. Helen, just actually before, if I can, I have a group of people outside that are wanting to talk with me in relation to McClung. So I need a chair for at least 10 minutes. So can I look to somebody to assist for the next 10 minutes of remaining our agenda? I'm not sure if anyone's able to assist me. I want to go out and speak to these individuals.
I can.
Thank you so much, Michelle. If I could just get a motion really quickly for Michelle to accept chair for the next few minutes, moved by Audrey, seconder.
I'll second, Nathan.
Seconded by Nathan. Thank you so much, Michelle. I do appreciate it. Now,
Okay. So thanks, Mike, for your presentation. So at this point, do we have questions? Helen.
Yeah, I'm glad to see we're gonna fix the road. I don't know about the rest of you, but I've been hearing a lot of complaints about our roads and how we're spending money on everything else but roads, and we're doing all of this and taking some of the money home with us and all kinds of stuff I'm hearing because our roads are so bad. Can we issue some kind of a statement relating to your infrastructure plan about roads? I don't think people realize how much it costs to fix roads the way they're supposed to be fixed, and that we don't have a lot of money for roads, and why we don't have a lot of money for roads. Like just a plain, simple statement of some sort, or press release, whatever you want to call it, communique.
I would agree, Helen. I really
Pardon?
think so. I agree with you. Can we actually focus on water first and then come back to roads?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. I'm going to bring that back up.
Okay.
So before we move on, Carrie, you had a comment in regards to the water main that Mike's talking about.
Yeah, I have a question for Mike. Mike, in this contract, is there connections to the property line of the community that is interested in connecting to the line? I thought Onondaga Road had that in part of their contract.
Yeah, so it is built within the contract, yes.
Okay, that's good.
Just to clarify though, that's water service from the main to the property line only, not to the home.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Is there other questions in regards to the water connection between 3rd line and 4th line on Cuba Road? And maybe Mike, we always need to communicate. I'm not sure if you heard Tabitha prior, that engagement with community is something we are continually trying to work on. I mean, water main, roads, all that infrastructure, we do have plans, and so, but community, I know they want it really fast, and unfortunately, we can't do that. But we do have a plan, right? So, after this water line goes in, then we can start to advertise what's coming next, correct?
For sure, we can definitely publish the plan and the priority sequence, yes.
Okay, so with that, Helen, you have a question?
Just have one question. What is the rationale when you pick a road? What is the rationale? It doesn't seem to me like between third and fourth line, there's a umpteen houses. I know there's houses, but they seem like they're kind of far apart. What is the rationale when you pick a road? Is there one?
Yeah, so this is for water main specifically on this road.
Yeah.
So they look at the number of connections, they look at the water quality. So if there's a dead end, then our operators continually have to flush to keep the water from being stale, and to keep the water quality up. And servicing an area, is it servicing an area without overburden? That means, you know, is there groundwater available for wells people to have wells that aren't contaminated? The length of water main and the water main cost all factored into the decision to pick this piece. And I think that looping, because we do have water main on, you know, third and fourth, to complete that loop does play a big factor in it for our technical water operators.
Yeah, I just know that when we put a water line in like that, people come and say, why are you not doing my road? What did you pick that road for? Why don't you do my road? So I just wanted to be able to let people know the rationale for doing these certain roads that we do. There's reasons, good reasons.
Thanks for that, Helen. And I really think that we need to maybe repost because Mike's gone through the actual water plan and which roads are going to be done. So maybe it's time for our comms team to issue that or just loop it, because there is data and a plan that's been done. So with that, do I have any other questions?
Yeah, I have one more.
Go ahead.
Mike, have we ever had this Evertech down here for any of the water lines before?
Yeah, so I believe they just completed the Onondaga Road portion in our community here. So just last year, I believe. So we know them and they do good work.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a mover for the motion to complete the water line between third and fourth on Cuba-Riley?
Audrey.
That was
I'll
who?
second Melba.
That was me, it's Hazel.
Yeah, sorry, I heard Audrey. Okay, moved by Hazel, second by Melba. Any final questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Does anybody oppose? Hearing none, motion is carried. Move to waive second reading. Oops. Hazel?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and do I have a seconder?
Second Melba.
Perfect, thanks, Melba. All in favor?
Favor.
Anybody oppose? Hearing none, motion is carried. Okay, well, thank you, Mike. I think that was all you had today, correct?
That's all. Yep, I do have an in-camera item, but now I'll take the comment for the statement on the
From
roads
Helen.
away, and I will work with comms to get something out. And I do see Nathan and I see the consensus around the group. So
All right.
that's a priority.
And Helen, do you have a follow-up in regards to the
No,
roads before Mark leaves? Okay,
No, just as long as we get something out.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody, have a great day.
Thanks, you as well. Okay, so next, sorry, I'm jumping between screens here. We have scheduling. So we need an individual to attend the Grand River Leadership Prayer Breakfast hosted on April 29th. And that'll be in Fisherville. Do we have anybody willing to attend that event?
Michelle,
Yep.
I've attended that about 3 times, but this coming weekend is when agricultural or the farmers are having their AGM. And I
Okay.
know they've sent out an invite to all of council to attend that. So I think I prefer to go to that farmers AGM meeting this coming weekend.
Okay, thanks, Hazel.
Mhm.
Is anybody available for this Saturday at 8 a.m. to attend the breakfast? Okay,
What if we ask our elder, Norma Lickers?
that's a great idea. Okay,
She
so
probably
Tammy
would.
or Shirley, can we do that? Thanks, Helen, for that. So we'll do some
Yes.
follow-up.
I
We'll
can
do some
reach out
follow-up.
to Norma and let council know if she's able to go. If she's not able to go, then what I'll do is I'll just send regrets on behalf of the council. But
Okay.
I'll update council.
Thanks, Tammy. So moving right along, we have another event. Recommendation 9.2 that we're looking for a counselor to attend in the Chief's Place at the Ontario First Nation Limited Partnership Annual General Meeting. That's going to be held in Toronto on June 1st. And so the individual that goes will be reporting back to Chief and Council and community. Do I have anybody interested? Greg? Nathan?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, again, if Nathan wants to go, he can go, but I was just, I've been doing some research on that OFNLP agreement, and it would be just more of a good information for myself, but thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Nathan?
No, if Greg wants to go, that's fine. I was just going to volunteer as well. But since Greg's doing some online gaming stuff, it might be a good connection for him to go as well too.
Okay, well, that's great. So do I have a mover to send Councillor Fraser, moved by Audrey? Do I have a seconder?
I'll second Hazel.
Thanks, Hazel. So Greg will be attending the OFNLP AGM June 1st and then reporting back to council. All in favor? Anybody oppose? That motion is carried. And I mean, Nathan, if you want to, if something comes up and you can go, great. It's always good that we have a designate. And then our third is to request a meeting, the Six Nations General Council, request a meeting to discuss feedback on legislative proposal for First Nations drinking water. Tammy, can you elaborate in the chief's absence?
Yes, so this is actually just follow up with regards to the email that I sent out last week to council, and I believe Helen said, yes, we should definitely be aware of what the legislation says, and then Nathan had added that the environmental task force may be able to help facilitate that, and I see Nathan wants to add to that.
Perfect, thanks, Tam. Nathan?
Yeah, we just received, Rod just received some additional information on this as well. So we put it on the agenda for Wednesday. Of course, councillors are invited to attend the environmental task forces as well. Just let Teresa know. But once it kind of completes the cycle there, then I had requested go to a political liaison so that we get a good position and meet it within the extended time frame that the feds have extended this consultation period for.
Great. So that'll be discussed Wednesday. Any other comments in regards to the feedback on the drinking water? Okay. So with that, council reports. Meetings attended. Do we have individuals who have any council report?
Michelle?
Go ahead, Hazel.
I've attended the Gowaneo meetings. I've attended the palliative care building meetings. And due to conflict of timing, I've also attended the great board meetings. But I haven't done a report per se on the building meetings because those are ongoing, structural developments and stuff that pertains to that. So I haven't actually done a report, and I want to ask, is it necessary to do a report when in fact there's a building going up and you're just pretty well given information what's happening at the time of the construction? It's just a question.
I would say an oral or written report is always beneficial because as we see with engagement, we need to be communicating with each other as well as with community all the time.
Well, for the palliative care, as you know, that the funding person had withdrew his offer. So therefore, they are proceeding with it's not a log building anymore. It's going to be structural, and they are in a process of seeking that funding that will it'll cut the cost almost in half now, and they've decided on a site which would be behind. It's in the area where the log homes are, and the police station. The road extension will be extended, and it's going to go way back. I know that they have to keep fundraising because there's a portion of the funding, and they're going to be working with Health Foundation, who have a charity number, and they will help them to do those types of events in order to get money to fund part of it. I don't know. I that's all I can remember of that meeting. I did go to Great's meeting, but I think all of their information is probably confidential, and I don't want to elaborate on any of that.
Okay.
So, and then I missed the Iroquois Lodge meeting because I had another meeting at the very same time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other council reports from meetings that were attended? So hearing none, can we have a mover and a seconder to accept Hazel's information? Moved by Audrey. Second by Greg. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Seeing and hearing none, motion is carried. Okay, so I didn't write this down. Did we have additions to the agenda? So with that, we have come to the end of the agenda. So do I have a mover to adjourn our open session?
I'll move.
Thanks, Hazel. Seconder? Helen? All in favor? Motion is carried. Okay. Thank you, community, and everybody have a great week, and we will move into in camera.